Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Rocket Lab Weekly. We have with us Dave G Investing. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
And we also supposedly have Matt with us today, but he came in, sounded like a robot. He was like going in and out with the picture. We don't know what is happening. Currently, is missing in action.
Yeah, hopefully he'll rejoin soon.
Yeah, so we thought we start so we don't keep you guys waiting. And I was getting messages from you guys about Rocket Lab Weekly, and what happened is the EU changes time. We have already changed time to winter time. I don't know why the US and the EU is not synced, and every year it's like some random time. Sometimes we have 1 week, sometimes we have 2 weeks between us when we change time. And as far as I understood, you guys are going into winter time tomorrow morning, so we should be synced back to the normal scheduled time. So while we are waiting for Robot Matt to arrive, how has your week been, Mr. Dave?
Oh, pretty good. I mean, portfolio is really doing well. So, I mean, I've been complaining about Tesla for a while because, Rocket Lab had been performing well and Tesla was kind of the laggard. But now Tesla's performed very well as well. So I'm just like all-time highs here and loving it. Loving it. Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. There's this meme when there's this guy like poking the stock and it's like, please move, and then the next picture is like
shoots.
the face. Yeah. and I feel like Tesla is unable to do, like, it's just going sideways and then it rips your face off. And then
yeah, as long as it stays like 250-ish and stuff or above, I'm pretty happy. When it goes below 200, I'm not very happy about that. But yeah.
Oh my God, fool's gold! Thank you so much. He did a super chat to me earlier, even before the stream started, and now he did one for Matt Euro in the house. Andiamo. He's in Italy, I guess, having fun. So Matt is trying to arrive. As you can see, his picture is here, but we don't have an audio or picture connection. But I trust he will be here. So. My week also has been pretty good as for the stocks. I hate my covered calls that I have. My portfolio is also all-time high, but it would be much higher if I didn't have the covered calls on Rocket Lab and Palantir. And it's going to take me some time to get out of those covered calls. And when it comes to content, I am very soon getting my fourth kid. And we started to organize with my wife. So we have a 1-year-old, and obviously the mother is not going to be able to take care of the 1-year-old and the newborn at night. So I started sleeping with the 1-year-old in the same room to practice the new room. And I've been basically a zombie the whole week. So I was unable to create content. I was barely able to follow Rocket Lab news. But I'm here. So if you guys don't see me, or maybe there will be a few weeks when Dave G and Matt will do Rocket Lab without me, it's because of kid number 4. And
imagine the priorities on this guy, putting his new child before the Rocket Lab Weekly stream. Like, you're way out of whack. I don't know what to say.
It's so funny. That's also what Matt said in the Twitter chat. He was like, "What kind of a cult leader are you? You're like quitting on us just because you're getting a child."
I know.
So yeah, I know it's crazy. So Matt, we don't know what is happening.
Maybe he's having internet problems or something.
Yeah, maybe he's on his private island and he's refusing to buy Starlink because he's waiting for Rocket Lab's own internet.
Yeah, he doesn't want to send any money to the competition.
Yeah. So Curtis, thank you so much also for the super chat. Sorry for the small super chat. Don't have the mega shares like fool's gold. I mean, that's a big fat super chat to me. So anything is appreciated. And yeah, you guys obviously don't have to do this. So very highly appreciated. I think we just go ahead and then Matt just comes in when he comes. So the first news that I thought that we should cover is an interview that came out by Madison Rady from New Zealand.
Markets with Madison. Yeah.
Yeah, she does fantastic interviews with Peter Beck, and she booked her plane ticket. That's what I understood for Neutron's first launch. And obviously, the launch was delayed, but she still kept her flight, and she thought that she inspects how the launch pad and the Neutron production line is coming along. And I definitely recommend every Rocket Lab investor, if they care about following how the Neutron progress is going, it's very good to see. I don't know if you saw any other major news or major something out of this. I'm sure you watched, right?
Sorry, I'm just okay. I have to admit I'm new to this co-streaming thing, so I was trying to see if I could see the comments on my channel. But yes, I did watch Madison's video.
Cool. But do you think there was anything other than just seeing the Neutron progress? Any other takeaways from it?
To be honest, I liked the first half better, talking with Peter, hearing what he had to say. It wasn't a ton that I found like super illuminating or interesting. It was kind of like, I'm standing here on this pile of concrete, Neutron will launch from here type thing. But I don't know. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that the Peter one I felt gave a lot more color on how Rocket Lab was doing, and again the launch pad was just like, okay, cool. It was not really any key takeaway, and we anyways get the updates from Francisco and who's the Starship guy. He hasn't posted lately, but
Starship S24 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't posted much lately. There was someone else who posted some pictures from the area around the launch site fairly recently. I forget his name on Twitter, but I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, Matt, can you hear us? He even sent the chat that he's here now. I don't know. We don't
really?
see or hear him. Yep, I don't know. His face is here. He's with us in spirit. I don't know.
I don't see his face.
He is now. He disappeared. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We continue to the next news, and he joins in whenever he comes. So the next one was an interview that came out with TechCrunch. And I think Fool's Gold now also gave you.
Yeah, it was much appreciated. I guess he found my my stream. Not usually doing it, but yeah.
I have returned.
Apologies. Matt's back too.
Oh my God! So what happened to you?
I think I was telling you before the stream that my internet was out. Maybe I didn't, and then luckily for some reason my phone was being super slow, and I was trying to do it off of my phone, which obviously did not work. And then magically my internet came back, so we are good.
That's awesome. We had no freaking clue what is happening. So I feel Fool's Gold deserves a major shout out. He gave all of us a $50 super chat on all three of our streams. It's pretty crazy.
He's my sugar daddy.
Yeah,
been a big supporter of the Rocket Lab Weekly for quite a while now. So yeah, much appreciated.
He's the man. Much appreciated, my guy.
Yeah. So the next news is we had an interview with Peter Beck on TechCrunch. I don't know if you guys watched this interview. I don't have any, I feel like the interviewer maybe didn't do the best job. I don't have any major takeaways from this interview that we didn't know, but the more I see more. So I'm curious what you guys thought about it.
Yeah, I watched it. It was entertaining enough. I feel like they had a decent rapport, but yeah, the interviewer, he was asking if Neutron would launch 2024 or not. So
yeah,
I guess he must have not known a ton, because that's been out there for a while that it's 2025 now. But it was interesting. It was funny. He tried to get Peter to chime in on the whole political discussion. He was like, so Elon's been talking a lot about politics and kind of, campaigning for one side. How do you feel about it? Do you think a CEO should get involved in politics or share their views? And he's just like, listen, I'm a guy just trying to build a rocket. That's it. Elon can do whatever he wants. He wasn't taking the bait in, criticizing Elon or chiming in or talking politics or anything. He just wasn't having it, which probably the right move. But yeah, it was entertaining anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't get around to this one,
No.
but I did. I did see some people thinking he was a little bit contentious, and was a little bit, I guess, abrupt with Peter. But it might have been a different interview. But the Maddie part 2 piece was pretty good. I liked seeing the pad and everything like that. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now we go on to some rocket launch news. So apparently there is a rocket launch in 2 days. I don't know if any of you want to live stream it. I don't exactly know when that is. I probably cannot do this one.
It's I think 4:40 or 5:40 a.m. Central, so it might be 5:40 or 6:40 a.m. Eastern. Oh, that says right there.
Yeah.
I might be out of town for this one. I have to double check my schedule. I'm not sure if I'm leaving that night or the night after, but if I'm home, I might do it just for fun, but have to double check on that.
Yeah. So this is the first launch of the Qarter that was supposed to be the highest Qarter ever. So we're either going to have a very sucky Q4 and an amazing Q1 because everything gets moved over to Q1 for different delays, or we're going to have weekly launches from now until the middle of the year, because then until the middle of December, because then it's Christmas. So I'm curious, how do you guys feel about Q4 launches?
I mean, I think you have to say it's not been looking great, right? I don't think it's controversial to say we kind of thought we'd have more launches by now. And not saying it's Rocket Lab's fault, or I don't know what's the reasoning, and these launches always move around, but definitely thought there would be more by now. So I would say I have trouble seeing us get to 17 by the end of the year at this point. I mean, what do you guys think?
I do think it's tough. While I've seen them in the past do, 2 or 3 within the matter of 2 weeks or so, it generally is followed up by a month or so of silence before the next launch, right? So to be able to keep that cadence of 3 launches within 2 to 3 weeks and then continue that for the next 5 weeks after that would be pretty tough. So do I still see the potential to get the 15 launches as expected off? I do potentially see that. So another 4 launches in this particular quarter. To get to 18, I think is going to be tough. And I think that was always challenged based off of what Spice was kind of saying as we kind of got closer towards the end of 3Q. But I think also because of the delays, this is probably why this opportunity was able to come up and actually be input, right? My hope is that you get more of these opportunities where my hope is that when they describe this during the 3Q earnings call November 12th, they say, hey, we knew that we had some people pushing into 25. We had the opportunity to backfill, and we had, a customer ready for quick turnaround within 2 months. And my hope is that you get more of that going forward so that you always have the, 22 slots like we kind of expected to come into 2024 with. And if somebody does push, you have somebody to backfill it. And so that's kind of my hope as we hear more a little bit about the manifest going into 2025, which I anticipate we'll hear more about on November 12th.
Yeah, it was, I will say it was pretty cool to see them, sign and have this launch ready to go in such short order. But yeah, my thoughts are now more like 14 to 15 launches per year, as opposed to, I think Mottbox is saying 15 to 16. Obviously, I'd love that if it happens. It will still be a record year, but a little disappointing for me. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's also a little disappointing, but because I understand now from all the interviews and all the due diligence that we have done that this is basically the customers who are delayed and not Rocket Lab. And on top of it, like as we get closer to Neutron, Electron becomes less and less significant from a revenue viewpoint. So it's not the end of the world. And Scotto, actually, I want to give credit for him. He released a video today.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, where he was going into the Q4 earnings projections and, like how you close out the year. And he was saying, I wish he could have been here to tell us about this. But he said that in Q4, they will be able to officially recognize the MDA contract. And he was thinking that just the space systems revenue is going to be around $85 million. And when it's that high, and you would get, let's say, 4 launches at $8 million a pop. No, yeah, he was okay. Everybody has to check his video, but basically, Q4 is easily looking like it will be the best quarter in Rocket Lab's history, and it also puts like the year into a very nice end. Like we had a Q1 and then a major increase in Q2. Q3 is like probably a slight decrease from Q2, and then Q4 is going to go back into the right.
I mean, I guess we'll get guidance relatively soon on that. That's interesting, though. Yeah, I really need to check out his video. They won't be like realizing, like, surely not all the revenue from the NDA contract, right? Because that's like, a large number of satellites that I don't think they've delivered all of them yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this like recognizing of the revenue in the bookkeeping is a bit funny. Like I have experience with this because we work with large real estate projects in Sweden, and I understand why they make the rules like this, but it becomes like a little bit subjective how you recognize the revenue, right? And they don't usually disclose. I guess it's the auditors or somebody comes up with a schedule that we use this viewpoint, and as long as they use the same rule on everything that they complete. So yeah, I don't think that they will disclose how they recognize the revenue and if they can recognize all of it or a lot of it or most of it. So yeah, we will not know.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Q4 then.
Exactly. We will hear on the earnings call what happens.
Yeah. I mean, by the time they give us guidance, they're halfway done the quarter. So you generally, they have a pretty good idea.
Yeah. It's probably also going to be guidance for Q1 because last Q3, they were giving guidance for like 2 quarters ahead. So
that'll be interesting. That may have just been a one-off. I feel like that quarter, for some reason, they wanted to give some more positive.
It could be because that's when they had the Electron failure. Like that was the quarter when they had the Electron, and then they wanted to show like. But yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what happens. All right. Then the next news, I might have it a little bit messed up here. Yeah. This we should take next, definitely. So Globalstar stock skyrocketed 40% on news that Apple expanded its satellite service deal. And as far as I understand, in the same press release, they also disclosed that Apple has become a 20% owner in Globalstar by buying $400 million worth of Class B shares, and they agreed to do a 400 and no, I don't have the number here, but so basically Apple is going to do a major prepayment to Globalstar, and this is, we hope, is going to wind up in the coffers of Rocket Lab somehow because they were already on this line. Dave, you did a video about this, so I think you're the best person to maybe expand a little bit on this.
I mean, the video wasn't fully only about this, but yeah, I did talk about it a little bit. So, not to count your chickens before they hatch. Rocket Lab's current MDA contract, where it's basically Apple hires Globalstar hires MDA subcontracts the satellite bus to Rocket Lab, and that was, when they signed that deal, their biggest deal ever for the space systems side. So it was very big. This is actually kind of an expansion of that constellation as Apple continues to work on expanding their emergency SOS features, and it will be more satellites than that initial batch, but they haven't said for sure. Are they contracting these ones out to MDA as well? Do they want to use the same satellite bus? MDA, interestingly, does have a satellite bus of their own. They're building out a very large constellation Telesat. So that's in Canada. I'm not too sure how much capacity they have available. But if they did, they could also theoretically just cut out Rocket Lab being the subcontractor and do it all themselves if they wanted to, and Globalstar wanted that. Theoretically, anything could happen, but it seems like it would make a lot of sense to me that they would want to go for the same kind of satellite bus and same contractor. We'll have to wait and see on that. I do think it's kind of cool, though, to just take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and be like, okay, here we now have Apple putting another 1 billion plus into the space industry. Amazon investing, it's got to be like over 20 billion in Kuiper. SDA, 25 plus billion over 5 years or something like that. And then, of course, NSSL with tons of launches. Like, it really seems like space is hitting the mainstream when you kind of look at the big picture and look at the size of these companies, like starting to invest in space, like the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, so a light reminder, I think that MDA subcontracting out to Rocket Lab ended up being like 180 or something $million, if I remember correctly, total, if I remember. I could be wrong on that total number, but
it's a little bit lower than that, but I think you might be in the right ballpark.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark, I would hope. My memory might serve me a little bit wrong. So, yeah, I was also kind of curious because I was kind of scratching my head as to why MDA even subcontracted out to Rocket Lab, because it's not like Rocket Lab was making like the solar components. It didn't seem like it was literally just like the actual like outside structure and the bus part of it. So it was kind of curious how you had GSAT subcontracted to somebody who subcontracted out. And so my hope is that if Globalstar realizes that maybe Rocket Lab was the one that did the majority of the work, maybe they cut out MDA and were able to maybe increase their margins a little bit. Fingers crossed, who knows? And with that, maybe you end up getting, $250 million backlog instead of, 100 or 80 or whatever it ended up being. So my hope is that it continues to go in the right direction. And it just goes to show that, in my opinion, we're still early with respect to the total addressable market continuing to grow and expand. And not only that, but as we've seen, and we'll probably get into in the next segment or maybe a following segment after that, you're continuing to see different players drop out and consolidation in not only just the launch space, but the space system space. So curious to see as it continues to expand what other players drop out because they no longer have the resources or will to continue, or they merge with somebody else, and then that obviously would consolidate the space as well. So very curious to see over the next 2 to 3 years what ends up happening in this arena.
Yeah, I just want to speculate loudly here that most probably the reason why they would reuse the same suppliers is because one, Apple is probably under a time stress to deliver because Starlink is coming in with direct to cell. We have ASTS going up, and Apple will kind of be left out of this race of providing their own satellite service if they don't do something soon. That's reason one. Reason two is that most probably they need to make the satellite denser, so it's probably like the same version of the satellite, but they want to add more users and make the service more available. Then I don't know how many satellites it was, but let's say instead of 30 now they need 100 or 150 in the same area to make sure that more people can use this, and then it becomes the same satellite. And number 3, it's just a point that I want to add, that these satellites are in low Earth orbit, as far as I remember, and that means that they will get used up because there is a small atmospheric drag, and this constellation that they're building out will have to be replenished. So it's not just a one-time contract. Hopefully, like Apple is going to be a recurring customer here if they want to keep the constellation going.
Yeah, maybe this is kind of beyond the scope, but just a quick question for you guys. I'm curious how you feel like this will play out. So you have Apple being a, the device manufacturer for the phone, providing some connectivity now via satellite, but you also have, the mobile network operators via ASTS or some other method trying to figure out their own way. Is there a world where both the phone operator and the networks are operating like direct to cell connectivity, or where's the line here? Because to me this always seemed like more of the domain of like a TELUS or whoever you guys use down in the States. T-Mobile yeah. Anyway, it seems like an interesting distinction to me.
I mean, I think that Apple has a problem that they cannot acquire companies, right? Because they're just too big. And if they would acquire like T-Mobile or Verizon, I think they could financially do it, but I think that it would not be allowed. And if they can organically, meaning that they buy the shares of a very small company and then organically they build up a constellation, I think that that's their only way to become a service provider also.
Maybe.
And I think that
they're still restricting themselves only to like emergency messaging and stuff. I don't know if they've said they have aspirations for like a full 5G type situation.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why they're restraining themselves is because the constellation is not big enough. There's not enough satellites to cover. If 10,000 people are going to be millions of people are going to be Instagramming and YouTubing on it, then they need a lot denser and a lot more satellites. And they alluded to that the satellite service is going to be free for 3 years. And if we look at this article, it says that those 3 years is they began with 2 years, and then they extended it 1 more year for free. And that goes out in November 2025. So we have to see if Apple is going to start charging for this and say that, your iPhone has connectivity wherever you go on the planet, even on Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And you pay $10 a month. And I think that could be a new service feature for Apple.
Yeah, I guess so. I suppose there's value for that if you're going on a hike to some remote location or something, and if you get lost or get stranded, you can at least send an emergency SOS if you're out of the regular cell network. I could see it being worth it in those scenarios.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So now we go to the next one. Space Force opens national security launch contracts to new players. And this one, I think, is talking about the NSSL contract that I strongly believe that Rocket Lab is going to be onboarded to in 2025, because all this national security satellite contract is divided into 2 tranches, 2 lanes, lane 1 and lane 2. Lane 1 is basically for new lower risk satellite launches, and there Rocket Lab can compete, Relativity can compete, and they want newer entrants to come in. And we were hoping that Rocket Lab would already be onboarded in 2024. They missed that window,
Mm-hmm.
But 2025, I think that they will win a quite nice contract from the NSSL with not really any other competition. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think Matt's too busy flirting with people in the chat, but
That's what I do best.
I think they should definitely get onboarded this year. So as long as they show a clear path, again, I hate this clear path nonsense because it's so subjective to me. But as long as they show a clear path to being able to launch Neutron by December 2025, they should get on-ramped. And to me, the target is currently around June. So even if they were delayed a few months, like, it seems like the path should be there. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but
yeah,
this is what we were getting all of those files and reports about, right? When people are trying to say FUD that Neutron isn't going to be ready, it's to try and keep them out of this. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I do want to clarify for some people out there, though, once they get on-ramped, they don't immediately have like a certain number of launches lined up or anything like that. They will still need to bid on task orders within the program, but they will now be able to make those bids, and one of the few rockets able to bid on those.
Yeah. It's an indefinite delivery and indefinite quantity contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, meaning that it will probably be a max amount that they will get. Like the press announcement will probably be that Rocket Lab wins an up to 500 million contract, and then there's no guaranteed amount. So I don't know what you do with those news. But I think it will definitely be super bullish for the stock.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, the amount of folks that would potentially be considered for it are continuing to dwindle, right? So, I mean, people are delaying, and people are also falling out of running just based off of their cash on hand and everything the like. So, my hope is that with each one of those, Rocket Lab continues to show up better and better.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of off topic, but what do you guys think of the latest financing round of Astra? I don't know if it was successful, but it was something like the presentation that went out to investors is that they need $50 million, and then they can be back to launching with Rocket 4, and they will achieve profitability. What was it, like 1 or 2 years from now?
I don't think I saw this full presentation. Apparently there is out there, which is interesting. I thought I would have seen that. Yeah, so I think they did raise the 50 million, and they did get a contract from the Air Force. I guess the US government just really wants responsive launch, and Astra's like containerized launch system is appealing to them for some reason. I don't know. I think whoever's giving them money is making a mistake. That's what I'll say. And certainly 50, like, how do you get to profitability off of $50 million? And like, as we can see with Electron, like, you need a cadence of like 10 plus launches to start thinking about profitability. Like,
but I mean, they're planning to launch every day, Dave. You're like in the wrong ballpark.
What's that?
I said they're planning to launch like every day.
Well, sure, but they need a few more customers than the U.S. Air Force giving them like 2 launches or whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they would even consider trying to get like an MSP, minimum sales price, or ASP, average sales price, because I mean, their original thought back in the day, right? I don't know what their new thought is, but they were thinking about charging $2 to $3 million per launch, right? As they got cadence up and hopefully be the Ford of small launch. I mean, that was kind of what was displayed in Wild Space. So whether or not they change and they say, you know what, if we can get 6 to 8, you know, and start off there, but 50 million. One, if somebody were to put in $50 million, I hope that they would get considerable equity within the organization.
You have to
at least, to get some sort of upside opportunity, right? Because in the offside chance that this thing actually does work and they're able to sustain, you need to have some sort of skin in the game, not just like a 20% interest rate, right? Like that.
I mean, Kemp in London took the company private for something like what, $20 million? Like the entire company?
Yeah.
So if someone's investing $50 million into the company, that's like they should own a lot of it. But anyway,
Probably, yeah.
We'll see.
Probably, yeah. Because you realize if they sort of bankrupted the company and then they took it over for 20 million, it means that in the bookkeeping, like all the development and everything cost disappeared, right? So you got like an empty company that had the almost Rocket 4 and the Rocket Factory, and then they got this new contract, and then maybe with the new contract they got a valuation of, I don't know, 150 million, and then the investors, yeah.
You're right. They're probably saying we're now worth more than that because we have this new contract and all that. But
and the new contract, it was also this indefinite quantity and indefinite whatever, like the same type of contract. And in the press release, I read it. It said that the guaranteed amount is $2 million.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
I mean, it's just like how these guys, 2 or 3 years ago, before they even went bankrupt and everything, like they were going to start selling thousands upon thousands of engines. Remember when they were like releasing that? They're like, we have the capacity to make however many engines we need, and that's how we're going to sustain our kind of profit until we get to wherever we need to be with the Astra rockets and everything like. And that just, they barely sold any engines, if I remember correctly. So to me, I think this is just another grab at straws. I mean, I see this happen quite a bit in the oil and gas industry as well, where CEOs will get something off the ground, they'll get some capital funding from some people, and then in the meantime, as they keep the ball up in the air, they'll sell shares because they get rewarded by just being in business, I guess, and share-based compensation. And then they sell that on the open market and they capture however many millions of dollars that they need. And then what ends up happening is they basically continue to do this and keep the ball in the air. So they do outrageous acquisitions or anything to keep the company somewhat afloat. And then at the end of the day, that company goes bankrupt, and well, lo and behold, right, it's publicly owned at that point, and they can just kind of sit away, walk away, and say, okay, well, I lost that part of my company, goes to zero, but I have all this cash on the side that I've been selling over the past 5 to 10 years to be able to put into this new venture. And a lot of times what I've seen, specifically in oil and gas, can't really say for so much for space, is they'll be part of the auctions picking some of those things up for pennies on the dollar. And it's just like, of course, right? Now you don't have the debt. Now you don't have this, that, and the other. So it's interesting. And that's how a lot of America works, right? That's how a lot of capitalism works, right? You try your best and you try to get things to work, but there's the loopholes, of course, that people can take advantage of. And I feel like, honestly, that's what Kemp is doing here. I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Now, I hope everybody the best, right? I think any successful launch provider can eventually, in my opinion, in the long term, only be helpful for the entirety of the industry. But what I don't want to see is people getting ripped off. Yeah, so I feel like this the dichotomy of thought there.
I'm just happy that they are on the private markets now, meaning no retail investors are losing their shirt over this, whether it's retirement savings or whatever. If the VCs believe in it and want to put in as much money as they want, I mean, they can fill their boots, and they should theoretically have the resources and knowledge to do their research and stuff like that. So I don't feel I need to have as much sympathy for them. Yeah.
Do you guys think that this could cause trouble for Rocket Lab? Because like Astra was causing trouble in a way that they were selling launches too cheap, and then it was like they were on the market as an option, even if they were not launching. And Spice mentioned it a lot, that it was like murking up the market, because customers were saying that, like we can also consider Astra for 4 million. Like, why do we need to pay 8 million for Electron?
I guess it's possible. I mean, I feel like I feel like Rocket 4 will not launch many times. I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll see if anyone wants to take a flyer on them, take a chance.
I would give it a 50% chance that Rocket 4 will launch, and I will give it a maybe 10 to 15% chance that they'll be able to get Rocket number 4 off a second time.
All right.
We'll see.
Right.
So if anyone wants to take a bet on that, $5-10, little gentleman's or
That's
gentle person's bet. But I think
I feel like you're in the right ballpark.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. So going back to the original question, I mean, I think it just dilutes the potential for capital to come into the space, Vince, because like you said, it's a distraction. And instead of some of that going into more of the people that have a longer runway, whether that's Blue Origin or Rocket Lab or whomever, it's getting still potentially put into this company that has just burnt capital. And I guess you could say the same with Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab burns capital too, but to my opinion, they're at least getting things off into space and are able to at least demonstrate their capability. Versus I think Astra, they're trying to run before they can even walk in most cases. So it's kind of a head scratcher in that respect. And to me, I don't know. I think it dilutes the message, and to me, like you said, it's gonna keep people thinking that all space companies do is go bankrupt, right? Because here you had this thing come back from the dead, and it's only just going to be a distraction. Anyway.
Okay, next sort of segue into. Did you guys see that Relativity Space is experiencing a cash crunch?
Shocking,
yeah, exactly.
Who could have thought that might happen? Who could have made a video about that maybe like a month ago?
All right, we need to pat you on the back there. So yeah, because when startups are on the private market, they need the valuation of the company to continue to go higher so that they can raise money at ever higher valuations.
Yeah, you don't want a down round. Yeah.
Because then basically like everybody gets a haircut instead of like everybody making money. And the last time they raised money, they were at $4.2 billion. So I guess it's very, very hard to go higher on a valuation as a pure launch provider. And not even a viable at that. Like when we were reading articles, it's like their production line is not streamlined at all. When we thought that they would be a vertically integrated company, like that's how they started, and then they're using the Ariane 5's fairings on their rocket. There's many outpoints. So curious, what do you guys think about this company and the way forward for them?
I mean, I don't know. Like I think I've been as critical on them as basically anyone on YouTube or Twitter, but I don't know. I'm starting to feel like I do believe that Tim Ellis has really put his heart and soul and like his whole life into this company. So I do kind of still feel for him a little bit. There was a tweet actually recently, a while ago, where someone asked him if Relativity is going to beat Rocket Lab's Neutron, and then he replied, "Yes, LOL." And then Peter Beck replied as well with the meme. Apparently, he just went back and deleted that tweet now, which was like, I guess he's not feeling too confident either. But yeah, I haven't felt too good about them for a while now. Again, I'll say I'm happy they're on the private markets and getting capital from those folks. And I tend to feel more sympathy for the retail investors who may be young and get excited by the flashy promises of the 3D printing and stuff like that, but don't have to worry about it as much in this case. So we'll see. I think, Terran R may still launch.
May still launch. I'm curious. Do you guys? So I know that they were rated 4.5, 5 billion or whatever at their max valuation, but how much cash did they actually receive?
Oh, you could go back and look at the numbers. I think they've raised something like 1.3, 1.7 billion dollars
in all their rounds, right? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't the last round.
But when you think about that and their entire product being Terran R coming to market, and it's still 2 years away, and they've raised 1.3, 1.5 versus Neutron 300 million.
Exactly where I wanted to get to.
And it's just like where there's so much money coming into this thing, like so much money burned.
So the thing that I'm thinking about here is like, okay, so they raised, let's just say 1.2, but they developed 2 vehicles if you think about it, because they still did do the launch for the Terran 1.
Right.
And that was so successful that they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going directly to the Terran R. So to me, like that was 300 or 4, however much that was. Let's just call it $500 million to declare victory on this. And then they immediately shelved it. So it was like almost $500 million down the tubes for nothing, except for demonstrating that they can, this company and this engineer set can put something into space and orbit. And then they immediately got started on the Terran R. So if they don't have the capital efficiency and the I guess capital efficiency of say Rocket Lab, I guess it's pretty hard. But yeah, that's
I was gonna say, as some people in the comments also are pointing it out, that the problem is that we're comparing it to Rocket Lab, which is insanely efficient. But if you go like, like ULA and their rocket developments, or I mean, just even SpaceX, if you adjust the SpaceX numbers by inflation, I think the relativity numbers come quite close. It's just like the speed at which they're developing is too slow. And they're coming into, like, SpaceX didn't have to compete with SpaceX, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they're coming into slowly into a market that is, has SpaceX, has Rocket Lab. I think that's also why they gave up the Terran 1 so fast, because they were like, yeah, it's impossible to compete with Rocket Lab, and nobody on small launch makes money. So
that's what we've seen, right? It's a lot harder to make money on small launch than get a rocket off the ground. So
yeah.
Okay,
cool. Now the next news is again, it's just showing that money is going into space. Dave, you might know more about this one. So the Pentagon's commercial satellite internet service program got extended to $13 billion from an initial budget of $900 million. So they had a ceiling of 900 million, and now the ceiling is raised to 13 billion. It doesn't mean that they have to spend 13 billion on internet. As far as I understand, this can go into different constellations that different branches of the military need. I did a speculation video that maybe the first constellation that Rocket Lab is going to do is going to be for a branch of the military. And that would come from this budget. Adam Spice has pointed out on many talks and conferences that he sees the hockey stick of Rocket Lab coming from the government. And maybe this is what he was speaking about. So I'm just curious about your guys' opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, I read it as more likely to be, a Starlink, Kuiper, and AST type thing. Looks like they already have current vendors listed there. I'm not sure if you can see what they are, but definitely, as goes to show, investment in space is it is a hockey stick right now. There's so many constellations coming up. I mean, this is another IDIQ one, so we'll see how much they actually spend. But 900 million to 13 billion is a big jump.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Most of it is Starlink and Kuiper and ASTS, but hopefully there is something in there for Rocket Lab. 13 billion is a big number, and they do want one of the main purposes of the army is to not rely on one supplier, and they want to have like a diversified like for national security reasons, right? So hopefully there is some money for Rocket Lab there. I just have to ask you, one of you guys has like a cell phone that keeps getting SMS.
I think that's mine.
Yeah, I'm not important enough.
You're pretty.
I'll turn that off for you.
It's GQ trying to get him on the next cover.
What is going on?
It's Morgan from Rocket Lab. He's like, Dave, the interview.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we go on to the next one. It's the last news I have for today. It's a space industry news. This rocket that you see here, it actually stopped being just a rendering and is a real rocket that is being moved to the launch stand. And we might see a New Glenn launch this year. And they are going to try to land this baby on the first try on a drone ship.
They are, right? Okay. I wasn't sure if they were going to...
They're going for it. And they think that there is a chance that it succeeds. And funny enough, I think they might be right because, when SpaceX landed the rocket in the chopsticks, I was like, oh, yeah, of course, because they have... like with the Falcon 9, they have so much experience with the landings that it took them. And then they did a couple of soft landings in the sea. And then I'm like, yeah, it was on first try, but was it really? Because they were doing a very similar thing like 100 times over. And Blue Origin, they haven't been to orbit yet, but they do have the new Shepard, which has flown and landed quite sometimes. And then reflown, relanded. So they have a shot, I think.
Yeah, they seem, if you think about the scale of like move fast and be willing to fail versus make sure, like, don't launch until you're like damn well ready. I feel like they're all the way over there. So maybe by the time they launch, they'll be very confident in their ability to re-land this thing.
Yeah, I will say, I think Call Me Curtis did say it pretty well. I mean, although they've never truly been to deep orbit, right? They do have experience landing rockets, right? So I guess in that respect, they might have a leg up when it comes to, if you were to compare Rocket Lab versus Blue Origin, about reusability of the rockets and being able to get them back to the pad and things of the like. So very curious to see how this goes, considering the only thing that we've been able to do is kind of land in the ocean and also pick it up via helicopter, which isn't necessarily quick reusability, right? It's refurbishment over however many months or weeks and being able to get it back on the pad and hopefully lower operating costs, or at least cost of goods sold over the long term. But medium launches going after what Falcon 9 and kind of New Shepard have already done. So in that respect, curious to see how this works out for them, considering I know, at least from our perspective for Neutron, I think they're going to do comparable to what Starship did on number 2 or number 3, where they hovered over the water and then they let it sink. Yeah. So I think that's the current plan, and unless that changes. So it'll be interesting to see a second company launch something of this magnitude and land it. That'll be really interesting to see.
Very big rocket. I mean, I feel like if Starship was not around, more people would be talking about like just how massive this rocket is, really, and historic. But now it's almost like a sideshow.
Yeah. It's 27,000 tons to Leo, right? As opposed to...
I have to double check the numbers. Is that... I thought it was more. I thought it was more like 40.
Oh yeah, maybe because maybe Falcon 9
is Falcon 9 or something.
Yeah.
It's 45 for New Glenn.
Yeah. So Neutron is 13 kilograms. Yeah, Falcon is 20.
Downrange 15, but yeah.
Yeah, a Falcon is 25 tons to Leo, and then this one is 45. So this is like 2 Falcon 9s, or like almost like more than 3, like 3 point something Neutrons in one launch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think the payload is going to be on this? I mean, their first payload was going to be Escapade, but it's not anymore, right? So
Say that again. That it's
like they were originally, their first launch was going to be the Rocket Lab Escapade satellites to Mars, but I don't think that's the case any longer. So I was just wondering if you guys knew what the first launch would be launching.
no clue.
No?
No clue.
Okay.
All right, cool. So that was basically what I had planned for this show. I realized I forgot something major that is happening next week on Tuesday, and that is the elections in the US. I can't wait for it to be over, because normally my Twitter feed is like full of financial analysis, stock ideas and just finance. And I cannot get a non-political post on my freaking Twitter. Everything is about guess who said this, guess who said what, and guess what? I don't care. So
this is me fighting liberals now.
So just because I'm completely unbiased in this election, I want to see
Completely
who
unbiased.
do you guys? I'm completely unbiased. So
Okay.
what do you guys think if one candidate, okay, this was obviously just a joke, but like if we look at it objectively, like if one candidate wins, what do you think happens for Rocket Lab? And if the other one wins, what do you think happens?
I think they're fine either way. I mean, I think if Trump wins, probably SpaceX gets some nice perks, but I don't think they would actually actively target other companies to try and prevent them from getting contracts. Yeah, I think Rocket Lab's fine either way. I don't think, Elon's up at night thinking, how can I screw them over? He's got other fish to fry. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think some people were asking they want me for president. I've actually thought about running for office, but the thing that bothers me a little bit. What? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've thought about running for office in the past. I'm not very good about being a puppet for others. So, and being able to represent, if it was just about people believing in what I believe in and representing that, I don't want to mold or anything of like. So anyway, going back to the actual question that you had there, Vince, I think that if, Elon's pretty concerned that if one side gets elected, that they might see a hindrance. And I've also seen some of the things that have come out of California where they're trying to indirectly delay some of what's going on at SpaceX. So I think that might be challenged in that sort of environment. Do I think it's going to drastically change anything if, say, the Trump side wins? I don't really think so. Like you said, there might be a few perks, but who knows what really is going to end up happening there. But from an oil and gas perspective, it's actually pretty interesting. And I always talk about this as well. It's like, actually, the thing with oil and gas is, while it might be helpful from a regulatory perspective, if under the Trump presidency, it likely will end up meaning the ability to drill more oil. And eventually what will end up being with that is you have more supply. And we already have a supply problem right now with respect to oil. And you've probably seen oil prices drop and oil companies' profits drop pretty substantially over the past 2 to 3 years. So in that respect, I think it would only persist and exacerbate the current issue with respect to being on the precipice of a pretty bad bearish cycle for the oil and gas markets, which obviously is good for the consumer and not so good for my job. But in the case of a Harris administration, generally speaking, and this is kind of what we've observed under the Biden administration as well, more strict drilling on federal lands, less lease sales, more regulations just from the EPA perspective, and just by slower ways of doing business when it comes to going through regulatory, more stringent, asking questions that don't actually change the answer just to make sure that they delay permits and things of the like. And what that would do, likely knowing that the United States is currently the largest oil producer in the world, would likely increase oil prices, which will eventually be bad for consumers like the majority of us on this chat. And then also would also be, what am I trying to say here? Bad better for me maybe in the long term, but it would be harder to do it. So while it would help with profits in the short term, long term it might actually hurt profits due to the fact that we would be able to drill less. So it's pretty interesting, and it would actually impact inflation as well, if oil prices go back up. So very curious to see. Another thing, actually, another way to look at it as well. While I said oil prices, natural gas prices under a Trump administration might actually be impacted due to the fact that he's very pro LNG, liquefied natural gas. And Europe, Japan, many other countries are importers of LNG. And so there's a few projects sitting on the Gulf Coast that are waiting, approval for some of these things that have been kind of sitting or attacked from an environmental perspective and need to have a refresh. Then the Biden administration or Harris administration would continue to keep those in limbo, which would continue to keep natural gas prices in the U.S. probably lower versus in a Trump administration. If you're exporting more LNG out of the U.S., it'll increase due to the fact that you're competing not only from a local supply standpoint, but also an export standpoint. So anyway, I'm sure there's little nuances as well, like a regulatory perspective. If you look at it, Trump is very much about regulatory is important, and you need to have the appropriate regulations, but no over-regulation, right? You got to make sure you're still getting things done. But a potential Harris administration might over-regulate, and that's something that I'm always kind of cautious about.
But what I was going to say is there is some people that I've seen who is concerned that if Elon is in the government, then like all the contracts are going to go to SpaceX, and I think that is highly unlikely. Even if he does this DOGE, this Department of Government Efficiency, I think that the major cuts in space are going to be like cutting out the SLS program, cutting out these big money wasters that is like run by the government. And I think that everything would be given to commercial. And I think, yes, a lot of it would be SpaceX, but I think maybe a lot more of it, like SpaceX is very big, right? So if even a small chunk of that comes to Rocket Lab, I think it's going to be very good. In a Harris administration, I think that SpaceX would get a lot less stuff, and then by default, Rocket Lab would have to get a lot more. So I think that they're going to do fine in under both administrations. So I think it's quite boring if you look from a Rocket Lab viewpoint. what's going to happen in this election?
Sometimes it's nice to have it boring, though.
Yeah. It's funny because Peter sometimes in interviews he's like, yeah, I'm just trying to build rockets, and in one interview he's like, I'm just a boring guy, and I'm like, how the F can you call yourself boring when like you're one of the most exciting people on the planet? And he apparently has like a fighter jet that is registered on his name in the Czech Republic. Yeah, it was Francisco who brought that to my attention.
I was not aware of that one.
Yeah. So and he's like, I'm just a boring guy, but I guess he means that he's like he's not into politics, which is probably good.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if he would come like with the rainbow hair and like onto a conference call. That would be like, because we don't know his political views, right? And then let's say that he would be like a wild leftist, and he would just appear on a conference call with like rainbow hair, and that would be not what you expect. That's my point. It's better to not know it. You don't know what is there.
Sure.
Cool. I think I didn't have anything more planned for today. I don't know if you guys any topics you want to bring up, or the audience that we.
No, but next week will be a little insane for anybody that's following the streams just in general. So we do have the potential Rocket Lab launch on Monday morning, and then in the evening on Monday we have Palantir. So not sure if you're going to be doing that at all, Vince, but I know I will definitely be there. And then Tuesday 6:30 p.m. kind of Eastern time, so 5:30ish p.m. our time, we're going to be covering the election cycle, whether that is, I guess, spread amongst many people or if it's just on a Mit's channel. I'm not 100% certain, but my anticipation is we'll all be co-streaming that. So if anybody's curious and wants to sit around, I know I'll be co-streaming it. Am I going to co-stream it the entire night? I don't know, but we will see with respect to that. So if anybody's interested and bored and doesn't necessarily have anything to do on Tuesday, we'll have that available for folks as well.
That's pretty insane.
Thank you, Sense27. You're the man.
Awesome. And then I'm going to try to nudge Rocket Lab. I haven't heard anything. If we're getting an interview this quarter, I just want to temper down the expectations because it might not be an interview this quarter with Sir Peter Beck and Adam Spice. But
I feel like that's fine. It's not like we're entitled to an interview with them like every single quarter. But
no, I want daily good morning texts.
Yeah, that's what I want. Good night texts. That's what I want. Forget the good mornings.
It was so funny. Like somebody commented on my channel that they need all this pressure because because of retail they released finally the hot fire video, and then like somebody commented under him, but you understand that them releasing the video doesn't have anything to do with if it happened or not. Like it actually happened, and then they just had the video and like it. Yeah. So my point is, I'm so confident also in Rocket Lab that I was also thinking like, what would I ask them? Because it's just, there's this Buffett saying that the best friend of a good company is time, and something like this. The best friend of a good company is time, and the worst enemy of a bad company is time. Something like that.
I haven't heard that one, but I like it.
Yeah. And I feel that on Rocket Lab, like we've done so much research, and now they like Neutron needs to fly now. And it's like, we can't ask every quarter, like, Sir Peter Beck, so how's it going with Neutron? And it's like, yeah. But if we get an interview, we will somehow make it interesting.
It's like if you're, maybe this is a weird analogy, but it's like if you're the single child in a family, and then every get together, your mom's like, so have you met anyone yet or whatever? It's like, so is Neutron launching yet? It's like, no, the next quarter. So is Neutron launching yet?
Maybe that's why they're not getting interviews. They're like, oh shit, they're going to ask us about the Electron launches, and we don't care. Okay.
Maybe hot take, but like I am caring less and less about Electron.
Same.
Especially when I do my spreadsheets and I look a few years in the future, and I'm just like, maybe 30 launches. Like, yeah. Anyway.
I mean, the problem is Neutron is like what? It's like 6 Electron launches, like one Neutron.
Yeah, it must be around there.
Yeah, 6 or 7, right? And then it's like we're at 30. So like 2 Neutron launches completely replaces Electron. And I hope that the cadence on Neutron is going to go up into the 20s, 30s per year, and then Electron is technically,
at that point, you're like, okay, maybe because I think they've said before, they don't really foresee 50 launches in a year for Electron ever. So at that point, you can kind of see why people do tend to move on to larger rockets.
Yeah. I don't think that they are going to retire Electron. Like no. I think that there's a definite need for Electron.
Mm-hmm. But it just won't matter that much to the earnings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Still a cool vehicle. I still like it. I like to watch the launches, but will it move the needle in 10 years when we're talking about Rocket Lab's earnings? No.
If it does, we messed up on our thesis.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like your $4 put option. I was like looking at it, and I'm like, it's even stupid to sell that put option, because if you have to buy Rocket Lab for $4 at that time, you don't want to own, then you messed up something on your thesis,
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, the stock price is not the company, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, guys. Well, thank you everyone for watching. And if I'm getting a child next week, then maybe if you guys want to, you guys can have Rocket Lab Weekly together.
Yeah, man. Good luck with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it's all my wife. I have nothing to do with it in a way.
You had a seizure. You had a seizure for 30 seconds 9 months ago, and now you got to deal with this. Bad joke, guys. Bad joke. I'm sorry.
I think it's so funny that, you know, when you come home, like, because my wife is at home, like she has to recover, and like on the last child, everywhere I went, it's like, oh, is the kid born now? Yes, congratulations. And I'm like, I had nothing to do with it, but okay, it's the but she's not. She's at home and she cannot receive the congratulations. You know, so it's like it's a bit weird, but it is what it is. Cool, everyone. Thanks again, and see you hopefully next week.
Yeah, man. Good luck with everything.
Yep.
Thanks. Ciao, ciao.